Let me get my camera out and snap a picture. Of how it just, you know, sometimes I can stream, sometimes it says this resolution isn't supported because it's too small. It doesn't even make any sense. You're using too little of our bandwidth. No, the minimum resolution is 320. This is just bullshit. They don't like what I talked about, and ever since they disabled my live streaming capability and then brought it back, I've been having this problem. I think the only reason why they let me start live streaming again is because they got nervous that I was just gonna fucking show up there. This would be very astute of them to foresee. So am I actually back? I'm actually back. And allegedly I've been streaming this whole time. Even though it was telling me that I wasn't streaming. I guess just, I don't know. For the same reason that I can start a broadcast with a original and creative and usually pretty entertaining introduction, and they'll just cut that off. I may have taken more than a single photo of that particular experience. Yeah. Alright, welcome back to the Easy Reefers Fish Room here at the channel formerly known as Begotten Lost, or The Lost in God, or Beloget Bot, or I don't know. What? I don't know. Just flapping my gums in the wind. Because I was trying to talk about something serious. And, oh look, there's another app just loaded itself. I made a boo-boo. Oh yes, it's all my fault. Because I forgot that Google Crash Service was enabled. Yeah, that's the actual name of a thing that causes your computer to crash. From Google. If there's some other reason for it to exist, I do not know. All I know is that a computer crashes, I find Google Crash Service, I tell it to go away, and the computer stops crashing. And in fact, everything works more smoothly. So that, just for some reason, makes me think that this thing called Crash Service might be causing crashes, not just there to fix it. Google's like the fucking mafia. Oh, it seems you have dropped your possessions. I apologize for pushing you. Here, let me clean those up for you. And then just pushes them again. Oh, you should be more careful. I will take these cotton balls from you with my hand and put them in my pocket. Yeah, you do that. So, Mr. Conway, are you back? Are we back? Is this working? Because previously on the broadcast we were going into a little bit of a side spiel about how easy it is for graphic-oriented programs to be hacked. And then I had a fine demonstration about some other more common hacking methods, but suffice to say, when you have a compromised software company whose job it is to compromise you, like Google, okay? The way they're compromising me right now, they're compromising my free speech by only letting one fucking person view at a time, basically. Like, I wonder what the cap is. I wonder what it is. Like, what was it? 12 recommendations total? And out of that, we'll just see who's online. So then, like, you know, basically the data that they would give investigators would read as true, you know, recommendation equals true. No, I don't think that was Conway viewing. They just dropped out. Yeah, you don't want to know this, because this could lead to you being arrested by Interpol one day. Taking a hell of a risk anyways. Hell of an assumption to make that you wouldn't be arrested. Committing traceable crimes. Just saying. But anyways. So the investigative data would read, yes, they were recommended. Yes, notifications went out. But it would be incomplete data. And they don't... maybe it took them a while or something. Maybe they're only now understanding that the data that's being given to them is incomplete. But they are more pissed off at Google right now than they can even let Google know. They've gone to pen and paper. Oh, well, look, so you came back right after I mentioned, you know, the ongoing investigation. Right after the one person disappeared. And now there's a second person, so I guess that's them. Unless suddenly we have real viewers. But, you know. Only time will tell. Anyways. So what's interesting about how a lot of the different computer-based hacking services go, and I mean, like, you know, like, not some fat guy shitting on his bed. I'm talking like, you know, the way corporations do hacking, not the way individuals are imagined to do hacking. They're very good about the app that they use, or the app that they're associated with, the app of the people that they work for, you know, making sure that it doesn't actually do the things that cause the problem. And they use that app to then load other apps that actually send the data or cause the problems. Like, for instance, in mine, it's the Google services using things like the Asus update service and Skype and Windows Mobile and stuff like that, and those things just keep loading in addition for no reason, and those, you know, I have to close all of them and then I get my performance back. And then I have to get some more coffee. Coffee, got to get more coffee. Coffee I can pour in my face and on my toes. Okay, that's all of my feet actually. Shit. Where am I? Oh. I should have known there would be a towel in the living room. After all, the wife and I had the house to ourselves. Too much information, yeah. That's 2 C words on 1 towel. Okay. That's a whole new type of energy drink. Anyways. I don't think there's really a market for a prostitute-focused energy drink. So I'm just going to move on. But what I was saying before we had the little crashy poo, now that our little friend's gone, is that dating back to the time of Windows XP, when you had that little round start menu and the gradient graphics on every window and shit like that, right? Me, here, having fucking read a Unix book in the late 80s and like just like, you remember all the old documentation that came with like the what was it, the IBM 1080 PC or whatever, 1050 and the 1080. I had the 1080, I think. We had another one before that, but we had one that we got in 1984, or was it 87? Yeah, we got one when we just got back to America. That was even better. It had like 2 megs of RAM. 2 fucking megabytes of RAM. That's like 2,000 pages. Oh. It can load in its memory all at once. And it had a 30 meg hard drive. That I think I still have. No, I think I got one that was... No, did I? I don't know whether this hard drive I have is the one that I pulled from my old computer or not. That's sad. Wow, what a horrible memory lapse. But it was something like this here. Something that you could just beat somebody to death with. That is heavy. Hold up, let me get my 15-pound weight and see which one weighs more. I would say this probably weighs about 8 pounds. Here, right? Oh, but wait. I already have her unscrewed. Because I've been having it sitting up on the shelf like this. which I don't think I would have done with my old hard drive, so I'm pretty sure this is one I just found. Now, bear in mind, I'm 6'3" and I have a reach of 77 inches, and I have gigantic hands and a gigantic head. So, like, you know, if I was a normal-sized person, that's 5.5 inches right there. That's probably 8 inches side to side there. Isn't that fucking great? It's dusty, which is horrible. But that right there, paper air filter. That's fabulous. That just makes me happy. Anyways. Oh, okay, so that's bent. I had that, somehow I was using this as the stand for it. I don't fucking know. Anyways. Bend that back a little bit. This little guy right here. Never bend from the end. Always bend from the knee. Okay. And random Cat 5 cable. Okay. So, I apologize for anyone who doesn't geek out about old giant hard drives. Man, kiss my ass. But that right there, that is a 30 meg hard drive, I think. Probably should have read while I had it out, but that's the kind of hard drive you're talking about when you're talking about a 30 meg hard drive from the 80s. 30 whole megs. Five years later, they would come out with 1.44 megabyte floppy disks. Now, floppy disks, if you don't remember, the original big wide 5-inch floppy disks, they had 256K and 512K. It was something like 280 and 540 actually, or something like that. But part of it was the actual boot sector of the floppy. And the boot sector may not be written to, depending on whether it was what was called a bootable floppy. Otherwise, it would just have a little position holder that told the fucking computer to move the hell on because this isn't a bootable hard drive. They're floppy. And it was pretty rare that you had a fancy enough computer back in the 80s that you didn't need a floppy to boot up. Alright. That was why Windows didn't take off at first, because you needed a floppy to boot that up. Now, what I don't think anyone this day ever talks about is that it wasn't Apple, wasn't Windows. If only I could find. I can't remember. This first, it was like DOS enhanced. It wasn't graphics yet. It was just helpful. And it booted up with your hard drive. And I think it was called PFM. And, you know, my dad was a database engineer in training, kind of. Like, he was teaching himself programming. He wasn't a college graduate, my dad. Put 1987 in there, still did nothing show up. Oh, I'd really like to see. I was going to be hyperbolic. Like, I'd kill for a screenshot. No, I mean, something to be hyperbolic about it. But it would be really cool to see and to show. Do they even call it an operating system, or would they just... PFM DOS? I don't remember whether it was PFM or PMF. But it was just like brown and yellow, like with just bold on the key for the hotkey of what you wanted to do, and it had your operating menus, your that would just come up like lists. So it would be like, you know, like if like everything to list its directories, only it listed them all at once, and then it had a hotkey type input where you could navigate, and then you could scroll down and hit enter to execute something. So really, when it comes to precursors to Windows, that whole idea of here are the files, this automatically open it with the appropriate thing, you know, before putting them into Windows, that whole file menu concept, that was this PFM thing that I'm trying to... There's the right color screen. Golden brown. Yeah, but geez. I'll know it the moment I see it. It's not something I'm even slightly... That looks like the word perfect that we had on there, kind of. Where you'd have the hotkeys at the bottom. New. Seeing a lot of familiar things, so let's try PMF again. Apparently the order of the shit that I put on here is important. texty shit. Battleship. Oh, wow. That's awesome. I don't know why this window sucks. I have a better... Do I have a better screenshot window? No. Let me see if I can do that without being all fuckery. This is fun. I don't know. Just looking at all this old shit is fun to me. So we're trying to search for PMF now. There's Battleship. Do you want instructions? Ah! Yes, I want instructions. I just want to play that old fucking piece of shit game. And Digger. I want to play Digger. Castle. And the original Solitaire, where you didn't have to drag shit, you just sat there with your hand on the right side of the keyboard. Alright, all that's far too pretty. Try PFM again. Let me put that first. This is what it... That's really like a lot what it looked like. That might be PFM right there. But that's something in it. That's something loaded in PFM. I guess that's the closest I'm going to get to it. So you can see the different little highlighted letters. I mean, that really does look just like it. The menu area at the top. But the middle and the bottom of the screen, well, the middle of the screen worked more like this, or looked more like this, like a file menu. I just put 1 BM. Jeez. Oh, no, that's not. Yeah, okay, because 1080 is now a thing. I'll put 1050. Never mind. That looks familiar. Lights and ladders. Oh. Ben. Yes, it is. That's it. That's PFM. See, look how simple and sweet that is. You want to talk about a secure operating system? Give me that again. You've got the expanded menu. And you've got that menu. You could pretty much do everything you needed to do with just a fucking keyboard. No mouse required. Now let me just tell you this. If our government wants to actually secure a computer, this is what the screen needs to look like. So there was a point to that. And now apparently my broadcast is gone. There is no longer another computer in this house streaming. Just the one. And it works. Interesting timing. Did that right as I changed. Probably just a coincidence. kind of a shame. I wanted to see what Conway thought about that little operating system. Yep, that was an operating system before anyone had a mouse. My dad had a mouse at his work, quote unquote mouse. It was got cut off for ages. Really? That sucks. I had found the thing I was looking for. Hold on. You really? Oh God, I hate it. No, go away. I just want to look at my fucking. How come I can't get to recent sites? I hate Internet Explorer. So that's it right there. That's like an updated color format. That's a non-expanded view. So it had the little default text reader that came up like that other window we were looking at. And then this is like the main view. And I think you could make those little menus at the top come up with explanations like that other view. Let's see, everything you did with just a computer. I mean, just a keyboard. Are you there now, Conway? It's the SourceForge website that's cutting it off? But anyways, in Russia, this is probably how their computer fucking screens look like in their secure facilities. Can you see that, Conway? I'm going to wait until you say you can see that. Otherwise, I'm going to find another way. Okay. Well, this adorable shit here is the first operating system that I used. For the first 3 years that I used a computer. And the reason why this is so much more secure is because the lack of complex math in the user interface. Okay. Windows XP. Oh no, I'm cut off again. It's cut off. It's ended the fucking broadcast. Now it's red again. And it's green again, finally. And it went away as soon as I started explaining how it was the first operating system I ever used. Okay. Well, isn't that special? And Microsoft Content is running. Okay. Sorry. I was trying to sound like a human when I sighed just then. It just didn't come out that way. Why am I slurping coffee that isn't even hot? Same reason it just started raining. The good mood has ended. Anywho. Let's do that with that. So are we back, Mr. Conway? Back to life, back to reality. Back to the present time. Back to when Tiffany was a male opera singer. Wait, what? No, that's not reality. That's definitely not reality. Tiffany is what you call top shelf white woman. If your name is Percy Jack or whatever. What was it? Not the lightning thief, the comedian. Although, you know, very funny. The story of Zeus and Poseidon being reversed, basically. It's cute. It's like little baby Aquaman Jesus. But who's stealing what? That's all I'm saying. That's how they had it backwards. So, did you hear about the retired U.S. Marine accused of spying by Russia? He's in jail over there in Russia now. Let's just sidetrack for a second because I want to point something out that probably it takes me to point out. He's been in Russia about the same amount of time Butina's been squealing. So he could just be a Trump-hired mercenary, probably deployed by Betsy DeVos's brother, the owner of Blackwater. Yeah. Sorry, I have my screen too big. Maybe that's lagging on my end now. Oh, and one fucking app after now it's mobile plans opened up again. Keep that fucking task manager open, son. Keep an eye on the processes. $25 seconds? Holy shit. Oh, on your end? Not as far as my actions with my speech or anything. But for the text, yeah, duly noted. You can tell how long the latency is as far as the chat interaction is on here. 25 seconds just for something to show up. That's fucking ridiculous. But anyways, so it makes a lot of sense. All I'm saying is that it's, you know, okay. There's two fucking ways you can run a country. There's one is you wait for the evidence to pile up, and then you do something about something, right? Or you can do what your enemies have been doing for a long time, which is think strategically about shit. And when something happens, you consider whether or not it could be a plot based on its tactical correctness alone. And if it is in fact a seemingly tactical correct action, then you have probable cause to further investigate. Now with this guy, I see technically correct action, so I see probable cause to investigate. At least probable cause to speculate in such a way that could maybe give you avenues of specific details to investigate. That's kind of what I do on this channel. That's why Google hates me so much, is because I'm good at that. And good at putting it in a perfectly reasonable way. It's just logic. It's Vulcan levels of flawless logic. It is tactically correct for the following speculation to be true. Okay? But it is speculation. This guy is a Blackwater mercenary whose job was to go to Russia to get caught. Period. That's what he was hired to do. That's what he was there trying to do. And he was probably just hanging out there until the time where it needed to happen. Okay? Dingo. Lay down. Sleepy time. Why are you laying there and on your bed? Lay on your bed right there. Your nice little bed that we made for you over here. Good boy. How did you just get a bath and your ass is already that red? What the fuck are these kids doing? Oh, yeah. Oh, speaking of fish tanks, I have to, I'll be right back. I gotta maintain, man. Oh. Which actually means pop off there. There's nothing in that jug. It takes a combination of balls and experience to be able to pour water like that right next to your 42-inch TV. Not a fucking drop spilled. Oh, I got that in shot. Cool. Anyways. He does just kind of look like a he's got the typical like possible short man complex sufferer, and I mean, could be a perfectly decent guy. Could be. What the fuck was he doing in Russia? Oh, he just likes to travel? So at the time where there's this, possible treason issue, he's just hanging out in Russia? Russia's doing the missiles and Syria and all this, and he's just hanging out in Russia, right? And he just happens to have that look of one of those guys that before they open their mouth, you know they're going to say something bad about Hillary or... Just have those kind of narrow set predatory eyes. Likes to live by justifying himself through his judgment of others. Oh, yes. big swelling up fucking head, no chin, well, barely a chin, but just looks like he had a steroid problem for a long time. Okay, that's what that frog necked thing is. Okay, I'm not talking the big fucking, like, the naturally big guys. But when you get that big doubled up fucking chin, that's from doing steroids until your dick shrinks and you grow tits. Alex Jones' chest looks so weird because he probably had plastic surgery on his man titties. I'm just saying. Probably. He certainly looks like he had something done. I'm just guessing that that's what it was, because I see plenty of other signs of extensive steroid use. Now, men get naturally a lot more bulky than me, okay? This is the muscle of somebody who works out once or twice a week and not heavily, okay? Not much, alright? My dad, his arms are about 3 times the fucking size of mine. Never did steroids. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Well, except for like when he had back surgery, you know, different types of steroids, but, you know, he was working out heavily nonetheless. He's as big as you can get without doing steroids, basically. And being a Morris mixed with Kinzer, you know, the German sword assassin clan, the Japanese white people, basically. Yeah, those people. The one that the grandmother's brother that was a Kinzer, that looked the most Kinzer of his whole family, was that guy, that great uncle of mine, not blood related to Henry Morris, on the other side, okay, who was the first man on 6, supposedly, this is just the family story, on 6 of the islands in the Pacific Campaign. He was the guy who swam up and scouted for the artillery that would do the pre-invasion bombardment. And they used to say he could sneak up on you right in front of you. Like it was talked about as if it were some sort of supernatural gift, not a matter of him hiding, just a matter of him having power over your mind. Yeah. And, well, in my family, that story is believable. You wanna know why? Because we have fucking mental powers in my family. I don't know how to explain that to people who don't have this problem or gift or whatever. My dad controls the weather. That's just been a thing that I grew up knowing. When I started learning about some of the other shit that my dad was capable of doing, and that my uncles and about my grandparents and everything. That's when I awoke, and that's when I found the wand. That's when I could fucking just make somebody veer off into the shoulder and sit there and watch them like panicking like they didn't know why they did it as the person I'm driving just passes. And now I'm getting a psychometric headache, which means something's trying to probe me. Interesting. Fortunately, I have just enough of the required chemicals to establish a defensive barrier. But eating one of these chocolate-covered cherries would actually help with that. Fascinating, I know. Oh, it looks like somebody's already gotten into them. So I don't have to open them. Chocolate-covered cherry. Ow. In the hole. Ah, okay. Instantly into the bloodstream. I love it. Chocolate is a wonderful thing. Especially with cherries. Combine chocolate with cherries or any other red fruit. And you've just ingested a dose of mental fortitude. Anyways. It not only gets the blood flowing into the right areas, but provides some trace minerals necessary for neurokinetic activity. And that includes any psychic barrier you could imagine yourself putting up. You need a mineral in your bloodstream. And essentially providing, I mean, this is very much a long story short, but providing energy to those sets of minerals produces sort of a cover frequency, much like electronic jamming, you know? But a lot more complicated than that. Yes, a lot more complicated than electronic jamming. And in fact, it's really the natural, logical way that psychic warfare plays out that really seems to be the construct of how electronic warfare has been adapted, you know? It's very much a lot of the same strategies. Maybe you'd have to look in sort of like a vampire hunter type thing to make the parallels. Yeah. Anyways. But Alex Jones and all them, they don't have a consistency with like Moabite DNA, although a lot of them have it. A lot of them are just Chechen, Swedish, different groups that came here and got propagandized. But there is a common thread in the way they wind up appearing because of the similarity in how demons overall, as the result of many factors, wind up making people look like themselves. And that is because of the reasons why the demon looked that way in the first place, because it was that behavior or thought process or outlook, that consistent pattern that became themselves. The same way when I say I mean the consistent pattern that I exhibited throughout my life. That consistent pattern they've exhibited throughout their lives is what determined what their growth process, what their life process did with the building blocks their parents gave them. And this starts from the moment you start to form opinions on shit when you're a kid. You wind up becoming a mixture of what you were born to look like and sort of a matrix-like residual self-image that comes not only from your physical habits, obviously, like steroid does, change your physical appearance, and especially when steroid use is discontinued for the reasons that it's discontinued for, it continues to affect your appearance. But just being a liar, being an asshole, being judgmental, being a gossiper, being resentful, being petty, being iniquitous, being sad with what you have, all of these things change the way somebody looks. I'm not good at doing liar face, because people who lie don't stay pissed off their whole lives the way it takes for somebody to wind up with the eyebrows that I have. But like, liar face, and intense, narrow focused eyes, okay? Judgmental face. Self-pity face. There's different ways. You know how your parents say, don't keep making that face, it'll get stuck that way? Well, one of the reasons why I look halfway decent, pushing 40, is because even though I get stuck in thought up here, I've trained myself to not frown and not wince and not stay bitter about shit. It's just a matter of my eyes staying focused. But I try, because this will give me a headache after a while. I'll try to just relax. Relax. Get one of those etiquette teaching ladies, pretending you're a teenage girl in your head. And relax your face muscles. Bring out your inner beauty. They're always wearing like a hat like that with some sort of a thing tying it right there, aren't they? Apparently you can't teach anyone manners unless you have one of them hats with the thing tying it. If I saw 3 of them, I'd just yank them off their heads and start juggling with them. Anyways. How did the cat know? How did you know? I was just about to put on some music so I could go take a little restroom break. It's been 3 hours. You know, every 3 hours. Poseidon strikes again. What am I going to do with you? Sitting there looking all cute. Like, how do you disturb that shit, you know? It's like, oh. Oh. Dingo's cute too, I know. And he needs me to clean his eyes out again. Okay, I gotta get up. Yes. Any musical requests? They might be able to show up within the 25-second delay.
Now I'm asking nothing for free. let me be. Oh, something happened. Mercy on me. Bye, baby, I ain't ready to see. I'm coming to you, baby, with some more I knew. I got the cold-hearted blues. Oh, please have mercy on me, baby. I got nothing to lose. I got the cold-hearted blues. I got the cold-hearted blues. Yeah.
Well, that was disgusting. That last straw was nothing. I was using saline solution to get this fucking, these just crazy eye boogers Dingo's been getting. They're like making him like unable to see out of his left eye. Thanks to that fucking cyst that he's got on his eyelid. I don't know what the hell to do about the cyst, but I can clean out his eye. It just, oh god, it's nasty. Anyway. So I think we've gone all over the place and back again with the subjects. I don't fucking even know what the hell we were talking about last. But, just to wrap up about the computer thing. If you want to actually take your security seriously, no mouses. No graphic user interface. None. That's the only way to be able to load an image or a video securely, is without a GUI. When it all comes down to it. Mouse, mousetrap. Mouse, mousetrap. Build a houseboat. No more mice. And sure, all you get to eat is fish. And the male's a little slower. Ain't no more fucking rats, are there? And you ain't got to worry about building any more mice traps. Because the mice can't even get to you. Unless they can swim. If they're going to swim all the way out to you, pretty sure you could find a cat that could take care of them. Do I need to explain that metaphor? Mr. Conway, you still there, or are you having trouble accessing still? Anyways. So why is it such a security impact? Really? Yeah. Just when I was getting back to the point about why graphic user interface was easier user interface is a vulnerability. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Did I say that white? No. Did I say it right? I didn't say it right. I spelled it right. Anyway. Getting back to why a GUI, even just a mouse itself, can be, depending on the mouse drivers, okay, depending on exactly how much capability you add to that mouse, depending on whether or not you isolate and limit its capabilities, and depending on even things like what happens during a drag and drop graphically. All of these things require complex mathematical calculations involving very large decimal places. Okay? what often, in the case of especially modern, simple user interfaces, involves floating point allocation unit calculations. Anything involving a floating point unit can eventually be manipulated undetectably by hackers. Now, eventually, people get around to catching them and being able to detect it, sure. But like I said, every mouse finds a way of evading every mousetrap, eventually. Mouse, mousetrap, mousetrap, mouse, mouse, mousetrap, mousetrap, mouse. This should be a hip-hop song. When you're talking about like this, it's not just moving based on a set of X and Y coordinates. It's doing tracer graphics, it's doing interactive screen response, along with those calculations. Now that is simple enough to be very difficult to embed something in. But how many things just happen there to pull up a menu that's essentially a web applet? So that's just open source, we're trusting Google. That's already skittish enough, okay? But if I didn't have my square windowed menu and my square windowed windows, every little thing I did involving a right click or anything would involve extra floating point allocation, calculations, graphics rendering, that kind of thing. And there's just more and more avenues. The more graphic oriented it gets, there's more places for something legit, third party, a friend of a friend, basically. You know? To access as a bit. Eventually all those bits become a bot. So to speak. Ain't that a bitch? So over time, even something like basic mouse drivers, seemingly basic mouse drivers, can be corrupted. Accessed by third-party handshake after third-party handshake. Until something gets in there pretending to be an update. And then suddenly something that was third party is now fourth party. And that fourth party is Russia. Why would they want to basically interfere with and own pieces of and use American computers? Because they can. And you would too if you were them, because that's what they do. And they understand how grabastic and defenseless and addicted to convenience we are. And it's like, it's a need to fuck with us because of that. I mean, they help encourage that side of us, but it's still that side of us that makes them just feel compelled to keep fucking with us, because we just can't show organization and strength and unity and awareness on a basic fucking level. Do you know how much of a laugh they get out of people still not knowing they killed Kennedy? You know how much of a victory that is for them? Holy shit. You go ask one of them. See how angrily they tell you that the CIA killed Kennedy. Same thing with 9/11. Oh, you think they killed Kennedy, but they couldn't do 9/11? It's just a mix between Kennedy and Gaddafi. They did Gaddafi. They were behind Gaddafi, even when he was supporting the IRA. Selling them weapons. And I think in retrospect, we might understand some of the campaigns that led to the political divisions on both sides coming from certain media sources. May have been the instigating ideas, you know. Even if that idea was put into a politician's head and led to an actual policy. It's been happening a lot since the channel was founded, and I started saying these things happen, and I said, no, you're going to learn about them whether you like it or not. They're going to start happening in real time, and everybody's going to fucking know it. And so it has been. Didn't realize it was freaking sunrise already. And there's a cat that can't figure out the litter box. Anyways, So here's the deal, folks. We've had years of this false impression that Russia was our friend, and all kinds of different people going off to do business off in the east, and we were letting this guy like sing to celebrities and shit. Not Mike Myers, Putin. But this guy here, old Kedrov, these are his guys lined up behind him. So the same guys back there in the background. And the Syrian people were kind of saying this, while Russia was also like doing that. And this guy on behalf of Russia deployed all these guys. And that's when not suddenly the rest of Ukraine fell because of this massive army. That's when Mosul fell in Iraq. And you had these guys. These guys. his guys, this is from the same video as this. See those guys in the background? In front of the wall, not in the bleachers. That's those guys right there. You can find this video if you don't believe me. Just as you can find this video. And this video. And this video. And you can see that these fuckers are the same guys. Check out the gear, check out the equipment, check out the fatigues. Just like, you know, in North Korea, you know, just in case we were missing any fucking hotbeds of fucking evil terrorist shit, that's a Russian vehicle. That's not like sold by Russia, that's Russian. Look at the numbers on it. That's like Cold War treaty serialization shit right there. That's... And, you know, people don't know that that's not a rebel flag, and people think Russians are all Christians. What are you gonna do? This guy and this guy pretended to be enemies so that Putin could take power. Now they're friends. And when MH370 got shot down over Ukraine after this big old rally took place out there in Chechnya, within 48 hours, Mosul fell. And the news had something else to talk about, that's for sure. Oh, and Obama was wrong talking about they were a diversity team. How nice of Russia to help Republicans with their talking points by murdering people. Morning, Mr. Joey. These are not just locals, just like the little green men in Crimea weren't locals. I was right about that before anybody on the fucking TV would admit it. I've been right about this. And that much is proven. Or these guys. And those other guys. Wouldn't be there. So, let's see, what else do I have that's interesting in this folder? Oh, yeah. Let's get back to the other folder. So, Gaddafi, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Islamic State, North Korea. They sell all kinds of weapons to Iran. And Iran and Syria and Russia are all working together right now to defeat this invisible boogeyman called ISIS. And when they say ISIS, just remember who they're talking about. They're not talking about those mercenary fucks. They're talking about the civilians they're murdering. But there's one thing that I told you about that only one general in Afghanistan confirmed, and then we didn't hear much about it. You know, there's the Gaddafi thing. There's a ton. Let's just go through the slideshow on North Korea. I was trying to get a good look at that little medallion. And these trucks here. You know, I can't even tell where the Korean trucks end and the Russian trucks begin. I think those might all be Korean trucks. I'm not even sure. Dingo, sleepy time. Oh wait, the top left one is a Russian truck. And that's a Korean truck, and that's a Korean truck, and that's a Korean truck. So, Korean truck, Russian truck, Russian truck. So hard to make body kits, isn't it? Russian truck, Russian truck, Russian truck. Korean truck. Russian truck, Korean truck, Russian truck. See, I know a lot about building cars and frames versus chassis and frame on body construction versus unibody construction, etc. Look at all the different configurations Ural trucks come in. That's a North Korean body kit on a Ural truck chassis. Where do you think they got the fucking missiles from? Not those fake missiles. The ones inside the big sheaths. No, they just got all those other weapons from Russia. But Russia would never supply terrorists. Oh yeah. No one else has ever supplied terrorists. Not the CIA, not the Jews. Islamic State was unleashed by former suppliees of Russia who had formed Al-Qaeda in Iraq. They were being continuously supplied through Assad in Syria, until this guy named al-Baghdadi, who was a Ba'athist colonel, kind of took control of them. And I don't know if they had a business deal that went wrong or something, but by the time Islamic State became anything of note, you know, more than just a varsity team, it was because of these guys. And it happened in response to Putin building that... No, wait a minute. It happened in response to Russia coming to save us from the left liberal... Wait, no. Getting warmer. Yeah, getting warmer. It's all so confusing. Let's give them something to talk about, other than the country we're conquering brutally. Now, just line that up in formation in like a video game style scenario, graphics in your head, right? Just tell them all to fire once. Remember that when you see it on these maps here. Remember, those are real fucking people. And what I learned is that the Russians are willing to kill their own people and brainwash them against each other. Just for archaic power. Now, when I was talking about this alliance, I demonstrated some archaic power of my own. Go find the video subjects of those days. Because back then, I was the only one putting out the massive amount of publicly available evidence and simply putting it together in a way that kind of said, Houston, we have a problem here. And that thing that the general in Afghanistan said, that only I had concluded from other circumstantial evidence, and then what happened when I was talking about it was the little fall of Kunduz incident, Kunduz, Afghanistan, up there in the north of Afghanistan. As soon as I heard that a city in Afghanistan had fallen, I said, let me guess, right up there in the north. Because, you know, proximity to Russia. Funny, I don't seem to see any of those images in my bin here. But, this is what the Taliban looks like, right? Now, again, the CIA did not create the Taliban. The CIA did not do anything that directly led to the creation of the Taliban, unless you want to say that they should be psychic. The CIA equipped and gave limited training to the Mujahideen, who already had their own AK-47s, but what they needed was Stinger missiles to take down Soviet helicopters. And when the Soviets left, the CIA and UNISEC and whatever the fucking State Department agency that helps governments form, you know, with the UN. They all went there and they established an Afghani provisional government that held for about 3 months before the Taliban came back with Soviet tanks. That's how the Taliban took over. But because of the Soviets' massive control on the media, we just don't connect them to terrorism altogether. We don't connect them to the Taliban at all. They got fucking Russian tanks sitting there, and we're just sitting there rationalizing, man, they must be really good mechanics. Meanwhile, there's weird shit happening that we just fail to explain or don't even pay attention to. Why is it that this one fucking image is so hard to find whenever I want to find it? Come on. There we go. This is what the Taliban looks like, right? See 'em? They're Turkic. They're not Arab. They're not Russian. They don't wear little caps and uniforms. That's the fall of Kunduz. Now there were Taliban there, but there were these guys there too. Where the hell are my... other fall of Kunduz images? I know we had the video and shit, but... seriously? Shit. That's definitely not it. Way off topic there. What are these? These are Syria, right? Or northern Iraq? Yeah. Where I had the fall of Kunduz. A bunch of good shots from that. Seriously, the fuck they go? Guess they're no longer on this laptop. Okay. Damn. It's kind of fucked up. But anyways, the West, man, the West ain't what it's chalked up to be in modern discourse. We talk a lot about Western civic philanthropic institutions conspiring together. Meanwhile, there's people on the other side of the world treating it like a giant fucking roulette wheel. And let's just say some very weird buildings. But we're off in this little isolated corner, and then we find this new land that like Jesus made for us or something. And we all come running here. And we forget how long this has been happening. See, it's not just this horde suddenly started when the Russians accidentally shot down a bunch of Dutch citizens. This goes back before Attila the Hun. This goes back before Alexander. This goes back to the dawn of the people that are instigating the destruction of themselves right now. So-called white people. Here's white people. Here's the horde. White people. Horde. White people. Horde. Oh, shame on you colonialists. Horde. Okay. Let's go back as far as we can really talk about here. Romanized Celts. That's hilarious. Depending on your definition of Rome, of course. It's just like so insulting. I'm sorry. That's right, because the Celts were the naked barbarians that climbed trees and shit, right? Caesar was a Celt, just saying. You've got the wrong idea about Celts and what they looked like. They weren't like just a bunch of drunk Scotsmen and tree climbing hippies. You're talking about the Formia, or the line of mages, or the sons of Noah. See, Thrace is where Abraham went to see Noah, to make sure it was aight with him. if he occupied the land of Canaan. But that's just my opinion. That's not something that anyone else has come up with. That's just one of them things that makes this a little more meaningful to me.
Shit, what time is it?
It's 6 a.m. Not even. Okay, my wife just woke up. But ever since this time, when the civilized world, including many quote-unquote white people that weren't Magdalenian, swayed from left to right, literally, it was the Scythians in the north that had essentially deployed armies, both nations. Alexander did a deal with the Scythians so that he could conquer Persia. Persia did a deal with the Scythians so they could conquer Egypt. With the Parthians. That's not Persia, that's Persian people conquering in the name of Parthian kings. But then again, that's just parsing words. But the point is, from those times onward, all the way up until very recent times, Europe has been on its heels while the Horde remains powerful. See, it's always been the same borders. Look at them. A few change here and there. But the ones that stay the same for a reason. And it's because of where things are defensible, where conquest cannot pass. And everybody knows where you can't conquer. I don't even need to say it. If you're going to send an army to Moscow, you got about 3 good months to do it. in Moscow. It's just the tip of the iceberg. One big fucking iceberg. Look at the little tiny portion of Russia that we actually interact with. It's actually really skewed right there. Europe is made to be a whole lot bigger than it actually is. But anyways, all these ties between Russia and terrorism. Take it easy, Joey. But then the whole InfoWars universe always talking about how 9/11 is an inside job. That led to the piss boy in chief. Never wants to talk about how Piss Boy and Larry Silverstein are such good friends, or how many different suspicious fucking things there are about that particular friendship. I mean, Donald Trump's got a lot of suspicious friendships. But even more suspicious than his friendship and kinship with Vladimir Putin, even more suspicious than his friendship with Mr. Commie McCommunist over here. Yeah, he's friends with a communist on one hand, he's for the fascist on the other hand. But all these Alex Jones and conspiracy people, all these info whores, never wanted to tell you just how full of shit he really is. Just what kind of deep, dark fucking secrets he's actually hiding. And they're helping him hide it. Donald Trump is friends with Larry Silverstein. Now you can't talk about 9/11 conspiracy without coming across Larry Silverstein, because he's the guy that bought the fucking towers right before they fell and made a huge insurance profit off of it. And Alex Jones and RT and all the Russian trolls on YouTube never mentioned the friendship between Larry Silverstein and Donald Trump. Huh. Never mentioned. That this man who was obsessed with hatred for the World Trade Center, who hated Americans for its policy, who wanted us to be isolationists, who went bankrupt in America and sold out to Russia, who built a bunch of towers in a hurry in New York City right before those two fucking towers fell. He built 2 towers right before those 2 towers fell. And all of the info whores never told you that him and Silverstein were friends. Oh, it's about the Bilderbergers. It's the Illuminati. They're trying to run a commission. Chemicals in the water. They're turning the frog skin. Oh my God, it's horrible. I don't know how you do it. Oh. If somebody's friends with somebody else, and you know they're friends, and they're being investigated for a crime, Larry Silverstein, investigated by supposed journalists. Only it's the journalists that are covering it up. If all these people that know these two guys are friends say that they're not friends, they're intentionally trying to dissociate this person with the crime that they're alleging took place. And considering the preponderance of data regarding the subject, one can only assume, or one can only conclude, that their objective in accusing the United States government of complicity with terrorists is because their extensive history of complicitness with terrorists never fucking ended.